Welcome to the deep dive. We got this excerpt titled Texto Colado, and wow, an archaeologist named Anna lost in the desert. It's got me hooked already.
It's a powerful story, isn't it? And that mysterious light, that's what really drew me in.
Okay, so let's break this down. We'll dive into Anna's story, try to figure out what that light could be, and maybe even see what it tells us about faith and resilience. And maybe, just maybe, something a little unexplainable. Let's start with the setting. What do you say?
Absolutely. Imagine you're Anna. We're not talking about just any desert here. Texacolado paints a picture of endless dunes, scorching sun, just total silence. Like you can almost feel the heat and hear the wind blowing through those ancient ruins.
Not exactly where you'd want to get lost.
Right. And that's exactly what happens to Anna.
Oh, I know. This is where things get interesting.
So she's driven, this archaeologist. She's passionate about uncovering not just artifacts, but like the stories, the beliefs of lost civilizations. But as the sun sets, the Texto Colado describes how the shadows start to feel menacing, the stars offer no comfort, and her focus shifts. It goes from this intellectual curiosity to just pure survival.
That's a scary transition, right? Going from digging up history to facing, well, your own mortality in the middle of nowhere.
It's a huge shift, and the Texto Colado doesn't shy away from the emotion of it all. Anna, desperate, she kneels down in the sand and prays for guidance. And that's when the light appears.
Okay, now this is what I'm talking about. Tell me about this light. What does it say in the text of Colada?
It describes this pulsating warmth coming from everywhere and nowhere all at once, and it cuts through the darkness, the fear, and offers Anna not just a direction, but hope.
So it's not just seeing a light, but like feeling it too.
Exactly. She's in this harsh, cold environment, physically and emotionally. And the light, the Texto Colado says, it brings her comfort, gives her a renewed sense of purpose, and it guides her through the whole night. She walks toward it with, like, a new determination.
Like a beacon in the darkness.
Exactly that. And as dawn breaks, she reaches, well, an oasis village. The Texto Colado describes it as this haven of life in this desolate landscape, this place of peace, warmth, totally opposite from the harshness of the desert.
What a relief for her.
Oh, absolutely. And the villagers, they're welcoming, offering food, water, shelter, no questions asked. But when she tells them about the light, their reaction is, well, it's intriguing, to say the least.
What do you mean? What happened?
The Texto Colado says they exchange these knowing glances as if they get it, like they understand the significance of the light. It's not just some random event. It's more than that, like maybe a local legend or some secret they all share.
Okay, now I really need to know more. What happens next?
Well, the desert, this experience, it changes Anna completely. It's not just a survival story anymore. She comes back with a newfound faith.
So escaping the desert wasn't the only transformation. It was something deeper.
Exactly. Her whole perspective shifts. The Texto Colado describes how she goes from this, woman of science and logic to someone who embraces the possibility of a guiding force, something we can't explain with science.
Wow, that's quite a change. And she doesn't keep this new faith to herself, does she?
Not at all. When she returns to her expedition, she starts sharing her story with anyone who listens. She becomes a storyteller, basically.
So this experience, this encounter with the unknown, becomes a way to connect with others, to inspire them.
Exactly. The Texto Colado emphasizes that her words resonate with people, give them hope, a belief that there's a guiding force out there, even when things are at their worst.
Her story becomes this source of comfort and inspiration. It's amazing how one person's experience can have such an impact, don't you think?
It's really something. It speaks to the power of storytelling. Anna's vulnerability, her honesty about her fear, about her faith, it touches people on a much deeper level. That's why it's so compelling.
All right, let's pause here for a second. We've set the stage with Anna's journey, but this light, this mysterious light, that's what we need to figure out next. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, let's get into that. We've got this incredible story, this life-changing event for Anna, but the Texto Colado doesn't really say what the light is. It's like it's up to us to figure that out.
That's what makes it so fascinating. It makes you think about all the possibilities. Okay, so detective hats on. What could this light be? What are your first thoughts?
All right, well, let's start with the most basic explanation. It could be something natural. There are tons of reports of weird lights in the desert, sometimes because of the air or the land itself.
Like those strange lights people see in the sky?
All right. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of the time, there's just a simple explanation. But in Anna's case, the Texto Colado says the light was everywhere and nowhere at once. It cut through everything. That doesn't really sound like a normal weather thing, does it?
You're right. It's not just a random storm or something. Could it be something Well, something inside Anna herself?
It's possible, maybe a hallucination. I mean, she was lost, dehydrated, super stressed out. Our minds can do some crazy stuff when we're pushed to the limit.
That's true. But even if it was a hallucination, it still helped her, right? It gave her hope, led her to safety, and changed her whole belief system.
Totally. And that brings up a good question. Does it really matter where the light came from? The Texto Colado seems to say that even if it wasn't real in the normal sense, it was real for Anna. It makes you think about, how powerful belief and perspective can be.
It does. And that leads us to the most interesting possibility.
This is where things get a little mysterious. Some people might say the light was, well, divine, like a higher power answering Anna's prayer.
Okay, this is what gets me. It's like tapping into our fascination with the unknown, the things we can't explain.
And the Texto Colado plays with that for sure. It describes the light as alive, pulsating with warmth, and like cutting through the chaos with this incredible intensity. You can't help but feel like there's something supernatural going on when you read that.
Right. And then there are the villagers, those knowing glances when Anna mentions the light, like they're in on a secret.
Exactly. It's like, did they already know about the light? Is it something that happens a lot in that area? Maybe it has some spiritual meaning that they understand, but outsiders don't. The Texto Colado leaves us hanging, wanting to know more.
I know. It's like it's challenging us to become explorers, to look
Yeah.
deeper into these mysteries.
It's brilliant, really. The Texto Colado goes beyond just an adventure story and becomes this myth, this folklore. It reminds us that there are still mysteries in the world, things we can't easily explain, and it pushes us to wrestle with those mysteries, to look at things from different angles.
That's a really great point. It's not about finding all the answers, but about accepting the mystery and exploring all the possibilities.
Yeah, totally. Whether you think the light was natural, a hallucination, or something else, the story is really about our need to find meaning, even when faced with the unknown. What's so interesting is how Anna's journey, guided by the light, helps her understand herself and her place in the world better.
And then she shares that understanding, inspiring others to think outside their own limited views. This story has so much depth, doesn't it?
It does. It reminds us that even in the bleakest places, there's still hope. And even the toughest challenges can make us grow.
I think that's a really powerful message. So we've explored Anna's story, this mysterious light, and all the different ways to interpret it. But what about our listeners? What can they take away from all this?
That's the big question, isn't it? Let's talk about that.
We've talked about Anna's journey, that mysterious light, and what it could have been. But what does it all mean for our listeners? What can they take away from Anna's story and this texto collage thing?
That's what it comes down to, right? What really gets me is that it's all about resilience and, well, the power of belief.
It's about finding hope even when things are really bad, wouldn't you say?
Exactly. I mean, she was lost, all alone, facing, a really dangerous situation. But even then, even when she was feeling desperate, she didn't give up. The Texto Colado really emphasizes how she was searching for something to believe in, and whether it was luck or something else, she found guidance, strength in that light.
And it led her to safety and to people who welcomed her, who seemed to understand what she went through.
Yeah, it's almost like one of those stories, a parable with a deeper meaning. Like it's reminding us that even when we feel completely lost and alone, there's always hope. There's always something to guide us, whether it's our own strength or the kindness of others, or maybe even something bigger than all of us.
It makes me think about those times when I felt lost or unsure, when you just need something to believe in to help you find your way.
I think we've all been there. That's why Anna's story is so powerful. It reminds us that we're not alone in those tough moments.
And that even the hardest things we go through can change us for the better, right? Anna's experience with that light, it changed her deeply. It made her faith stronger and inspired her to share her story.
Absolutely. And by doing that, she became like a light for others, showing how strong the human spirit can be and how powerful belief is. Her story resonates because it speaks to something we all feel, I think, that desire to believe there's something more out there, something to guide us when things are rough.
It's a really powerful message, and it feels especially important right now, wouldn't you say? With so much uncertainty in the world, it's easy to feel lost and discouraged.
Totally agree. Anna's story reminds us that even when things are hard, we can find strength, we can be resilient, and we can connect to something bigger than ourselves.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Texto Colado and Anna's story, we want to leave you with some things to think about. What do you think about that light? Was it something natural, a hallucination, or something else entirely?
And what about those villagers? Did they know about the light already? Was it like a local legend or something that happens there a lot? These are all great questions that make you want to keep digging, keep exploring, and maybe even question what you believe about the world.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Texto Colado. We hope it got you thinking.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep believing in the power of stories to inspire and guide us.